Good evening. A convicted terrorist is standing for election in Birmingham. Shahid Butt was convicted in Yemen in 1999 for conspiring to bomb the British consulate in Yemen, an Anglican church and a hotel. Now, he claims to have been wrongly convicted, saying that the charges were not terrorism-related and he was forced into signing a confession. He was reportedly linked to an armed Islamist jihadi group of radicals who kidnapped 16 Westerners in 1998. They were accused during the criminal proceedings of being sent to Yemen by this guy. He is the hook-handed hate cleric, the former preacher of London's Finsbury Park Mosque, who was found guilty of 11 charges of terrorism and kidnapping in a Manhattan court. He's currently being sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 100 years with no possibility of parole in America. In the early 1990s, Shahid, who is standing for election in Birmingham's Sparkhill ward, apparently travelled to Bosnia as an aid worker and then just stayed and joined the Foreign Fighters Brigade of the Bosnian Army. Before that, he had been jailed in Birmingham for violence and was in trouble regularly through the 1980s, linked to his role in the notorious Lynx gang. According to reports in the Birmingham Mail, he has openly encouraged the city's Muslim youth to, quote, work out at the gym and learn to fight in readiness for potential attacks, and urged Muslims to stand together and hold their ground against people of other faiths, who he describes as disbelievers. Here he is at the Aston Villa ground ranting about how Muslims aren't pacifists when Jewish fans were banned from coming.
You need to be earning halal rizq, and you need to be in that gym, doing that MMA, doing that boxing, lifting those weights, strengthening yourselves up, so that if anyone comes into your face, remember, Muslims are not pacifists. If somebody comes into your face, you knock his teeth out. That's my message to you.
If he has any teeth.
And that's my message to everyone. Great. Here he is, apparently talking, about mandatory fitness tests for people who attend mosques.
As part of their graduation, if they can't do 100 push-ups without taking a breath, and if they can't do 100 squats, and if they can't bench press a certain amount, and if they can't go on the bag and punch it for 5 minutes without getting out of breath, I don't care how many Quran hafis you've done here, you're not passing.
You know what?
Because you have to, you're going to go out and you're going to be responsible for the community. So you need to be able to do that as well. Because tomorrow, if some far-right people come, and they try to attack your masjid, and you're the imam, you're going to be in there more than the Namazi people. And if they come, what are you going to do? You know, you're just going to go, oh, brother, please don't, You need to be out there kicking and punching and knocking and taking them out, Doesn't matter, go to prison. You're defending your masjid, you're defending the house of Allah. But if you've never thrown a punch in your life, how are you going to fight anybody?
So he's standing for election as part of the Independent Candidates Alliance, fronted up by this guy, comedy lawyer Ahmed Yaqub.
Back in your car, but you can't demonstrate that you have a sporting event. You can get into trouble with the police and the prosecution and see yourself in court for possession of an offensive weapon. So if you do have a baseball bat, for example, for a sporting event, then make sure it is clear and you have other equipment with it as well. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to show that you have a reasonable excuse to have this bat. Always remember, there's a defense for every offense.
Yeah, you see, what he needs to say there as well is that there's a defense for every alleged offence, right? That's the thing, isn't it? He's letting the cat out of the bag. So his catchphrase means that his clients are guilty, right? I mean, just come on, mate. Anyway, to all the left-wing liberals out there, are you waking up yet? Can you see what's going on here? Can you see what's happening to our country? All the left-wing parties, they say, oh, reform is the biggest threat to Britain. Look at what I've just shown you. Are you mental?
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Let's get thoughts on my panel. We've got senior political correspondent at Daily Express, Christian Cowgie, Reform councillor Russell Quirk, and journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. So, Russell, do you think it's slightly concerning that we have a convicted terrorist standing for election in Birmingham?
Slightly concerning. I think it's incredibly concerning. And not just the fact that this individual, Shahid Butt, has been convicted, and he was convicted, so he may now well say, as he would do, wouldn't he, I was innocent, it was all a fit-up gov and all that. Well, he would say that. So not only is he a convicted terrorist, what you've just shown there by way of him and his lawyer enabler friend there is surely nothing short of incitement to violence, incitement to make threats. There are some people in this country, Patrick, that have done less than that on social media and have been put in jail for 31 months. So, I mean, look, this is not only an issue when it comes to the fact that this individual is a terrorist, but clearly they are, in my view, committing offences or close to committing offences in those videos since. Now, I'm a big defender of anyone standing for election and then the ballot box deciding. So let the voters decide. The problem is there are certain instances, sex crimes, particularly sexual offences against children, and I would say, suggest humbly, terrorism. You know, terrorism is what it is in terms of inflicting terror through maiming, torture, death, destruction, explosions, and so on. I would say that being a terrorist shouldn't it, disqualify you from standing for election? Well, any reasonable person thinks that, surely.
I mean, I don't think that's a particularly controversial view. I mean, what I will say there is that obviously he will probably say that when he was talking about violence, he was quite careful maybe to talk about it in terms of self-defence.
Well, he sees it as a defence, but come on.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what he would probably say. Christian, what do you make of this? There's probably a broader point here, isn't there, I think, about the wider question of, I would argue, quite radical Muslims in British politics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd agree about saying there are certain crimes you should have committed before you're barred from standing for election. I think if you're a man free to walk the streets of Britain and you're not either on a suspended sentence or in prison, you're perfectly within your right to stand for election. I think what will turn this story into something of particular concern will be when the ballot boxes are opened and the votes are counted, because, of course, you know, if you were a child sex offender and you wanted to stand as a nutter independent, you know, you get no votes.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned about is what we'll see, as I say, when the votes are counted, and it feeds into a much wider theme, as we've seen with the rise of these independent Islamist candidates, as we saw with the Maccabi Tel Aviv scandal recently. In that particular part of Britain, there is a very concerning rise of sectarian politics.
That electoral ward, I checked this morning, is 79% Muslim.
Yeah, because that will be quite telling, won't it, really? Because I think a lot of people will look at this guy's track record and his history, and I don't think anyone here would vote for him. But if he wins and, you know, whatever, that would indicate that obviously a lot of people had, and I think that's probably a greater concern. It says more, but there we go. Nina, look, everyone's got a shot at redemption, haven't they?
Yes, absolutely. You have to hope that. Otherwise, what's the point of prison? Because everybody who goes into prison is going to come out and just re-offend. Many of them do. But everybody has a second chance at life. Reading this guy's history, he grew up in Birmingham that was very prejudiced against Pakistanis, anybody that was non-white. He had a tough time, and he went, as I can see it, he went the wrong way. He went into fighting and gangs, and
then apparently tried to blow up the British consulate in Yemen.
And then became radicalised. And we don't know if that was him personally or that was part of the group, or he denies all of that. So technically, I am the sort of person who would say, give somebody a second chance. He has been, for many years now, apparently mentoring young Muslims, mentoring them.
We can see him doing that in videos
and abroad. Well,
him and his mate with baseball bats, that sort of mentoring.
It's not all violence. That I absolutely abhor. I absolutely abhor that. But where it goes completely wrong is that he denies, because he's pro-Palestinian, of course he is, but he denies he doesn't want the existence of the state of Israel. Now that to me is that's
is that right?
That's the red line. That's the red line for me, because you cannot, because that is, you can be anti-Netanyahu, which I am, a crook and a fraudster, and prolonging a war just so he keeps himself out of the court.
Do we not think in reasonable society? I hear what you say in terms of people being given a second chance, the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act and all that, but there's a line, right? We're not talking about a shoplifter here or someone that's a bit of fare dodgy.
Yeah, I'm not saying give him a second chance.
Somebody that's sought by conspiracy to blow up people in Yemen.
Russell, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is a red line.
Do you think he should be allowed to stand?
No, I really don't.
Well, you're the most liberal person here now, Christys.
I was just going to say...
You're conservative, right?
I'll say this in his favour. He's done an interview with the Birmingham Online, and he's massively in favour of stopping the boats.
Really?
He said we don't want any Tom, Dick or Harry coming over in small teams.
He'll be standing for the Conservative Party.
Well, I don't know. You guys are taking it anyway.
That doesn't make it. Because the thing is, if he is totally against the state of Israel, that is anti-Semitic, and you have to be able to represent all of your people in your borough, and he obviously doesn't.
I think we have to face up to the reality of modern Britain, that we're going to see a lot of people very similar to this guy standing at elections, like in terms of, I'm talking about way ahead here, general elections, standing in various different seats or whatever it is, and at some point, I think that people on the left, especially, who are, I'm not talking about Shahid Butt personally here, but generally speaking, people who are massively pro-trans, massively pro-gay rights, massively pro all sorts of stuff like that, are going to have to be forced to confront the reality that maybe certain aspects of the fundamentalist Islamic candidates are diametrically opposed to what you believe.
Well, I think what's interesting is that these forces have existed in British politics for a very long time, but for the last 10, 20 years, they've been within the Labour Party. And now in certain wards and parts of the country, they've reached a critical mass, and now they're standing under their own banner.
Because the
Labour
Party is not
it's completely backfired on the Labour Party.
Can I just make the point, actually, when it comes to parliamentary selection and election, there are rules around prison sentences having been served. If you served a prison sentence of more than 12 months, you can't be an MP, you can't stand to be mayor or police and crime commissioner. Same should apply to councillors.
All right. Well, look, a couple of things I want to say on this. GB News has approached Shahid Butt for comment. We have not yet got a response from him. By the way, I would welcome him on the show. With regards to his terrorism conviction, Shahid Butt has always proclaimed his innocence. He did tell Birmingham Live, I think I referred to it as Birmingham Mail before, Birmingham Live, my actual charge of being a member of an armed gang and conspiring to commit violence, not terrorism as such. Nobody actually died. Nothing happened at all. He added that the gang were tortured and forced into signing confessions. However, he told the publication that he does regret his past links to violence. Like many people, you look back and think, at the time you were doing the right thing. I am not an educated person. As a kid, I experienced racism. I was not able to communicate or deal with this differently. I've done martial arts, street fighting, and so I found that very easy. I did not develop intellectually until later. I made a lot of mistakes. This is a lot of stuff that I regret of my past. But now it is done, and I have to live with it. And that's why I got involved in stopping young men making the mistakes I did. Now, we have also approached the Independent Candidates Alliance for comment. Again, we're yet to hear back. And again, final bit on this, I will say, is obviously a couple of the clips that we played there, widely circulated and widely reported on social media. And there you go. If obviously, again, if they've got a problem with any of that, they're more than welcome to come on this show.